Don in London, hello, it's December the 10th and my videos are all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, and I stick with the topic of recovery in the context today of riots in London over the last 24 hours, which have been very disturbing. So why do I mention that? Well, I just tried to do a video and it ended up 13 minutes long, and it included things which are really nothing to do with recovery, but everything to do with recovery, and that is dealing with real life. So riots in London, why? Because people aren't being listened to, and if they are being listened to, they're being ignored because somebody's saying they know better. And of course that's where my rebellion in life started, when people told me they knew better and I knew they were wrong. It set up an internal conflict which can lead to all sorts of aberrations in behaviour. And my way to deal with powerlessness in the past was to take a drink, to take the edge off, and conform. And I remember very vividly when things like this used to happen in the past, where there were riots and there was a great deal of powerlessness. People went down the pub, went to the bar, took the edge off and stopped responding and ignored politics. And to a large extent I can do that these days, and to a large extent I cannot, because I'm human. But these videos are about recovery, so if I stay sober I can get a more and better outlook and a better framework for dealing with what is going on around me and finding the context of how to stay sober when under pressure. And believe you me, I do not like to see riots on the streets of my hometown, and I do not like the reasons why, and I do not like the consequences either, like helicopters flying overhead and police on the streets with batons and police forces being used to charge at people who are demonstrating for whatever reason. A breakdown in society, and what made me drink was a breakdown in my ability to cope with what society was doing to people. So enough of that, that's my rant if you like for now. But the consequences are I feel energized to do something, and that is to express my opinion in an acceptable form which can be heard and listened to and not put down as some crank just sounding off. And I can remember my father doing that, so angry at the way life had turned out, and he used drink to ameliorate the effects or just blot it all out, and I guess that's what I did. I sought oblivion because I couldn't cope with the reality of my situation. Workaholic, relationshipaholic, drinkaholic. So these days I try and keep sober, and if I keep sober I can have a level look at what is going on around me. And what's made that possible? Well, fellowship, the fellowship of AA, made up of unique, authentic people. So when I say AA saved my life, unique, authentic people sharing their experience, strength and hope of sobriety, and their reaction to what's going on in society and how they've dealt with it, helps me adjust my attitudes and behaviour on a daily basis. So on a day like this I need meetings, and that's so I can settle my own head, which is full of anger and resentments of the past about how people were treated when things went wrong in society, and how best to express my views and opinions. And the best way to do that is with a clear head. So how does fellowship help me? I will share the AA preamble here, and it's important because fellowship takes away everything but one thing: how to be sober and deal with life. So we always share the AA preamble at the beginning of a meeting, and it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. In other words, we put that to one side and concentrate on sober. We all have our opinions, and we need to keep them and work on the greater good. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety, so that they can engage in life as it is today. A tall order? Well, you know what? We all have our beliefs and our attitudes and our behaviour and how we conduct ourselves and how we win people over to our point of view is important. It's not winning the argument, it's actually being level-headed enough to understand what is possible and what is not possible on a daily basis. So I'm lucky to be alive long enough to have an opinion on what's going on in society. I'm also alive long enough to experience what sober means, how to love people, how to be loved back, and how to be useful. And I was just reflecting, I've got my dog tags here on this little chain, and one of them says, love, be loved, and cherish. And the opposite of cherish for me is to be superficial and indifferent. And it's the superficiality and indifference which is causing riots in London today. And on the back of it, it says serenity, wisdom, and acceptance. And for me, serenity is the ability to be in the moment and find balance, even when it's at extremes, to come back to a balance where we get back to solid ground. Wisdom in the fellowship, learning the wisdom of life from others, so I can put it into practice, and an acceptance of life on life's terms. The other dog tag, more sirens, God knows where they're going. It says here, insulin dependent. I became a type 1 diabetic in recovery after getting a virus from extracting an extraction of a wisdom tooth. Allergies, alcohol. So I hope if I fall over in the street, nobody gives me a bracer to try and get back on my feet. It will kill me. It will set off a chain reaction. And then, of course, my hospital information. But the other thing it has on there is the 24-hour chip, which is the most important chip to me. 24 hours is all I've got. And when life is difficult, like today, meetings are even more important. And one of my meetings, which I go to on a fairly regular basis, is right near where the riots happened yesterday. Yeah, it's difficult. So, you know, life is life. I share a reading here from the Daily Reflections, this book, and thank you to a friend of mine. I'm filling in, doing their literature secretary job, and they're away up north, and it was a very helpful message this morning, so thank you, and you know who you are. Oh dear me, life can be very difficult, but you know, wherever we are, the most important thing is sober means that we can deal with it without trying to be right or trying to defend a wrong. It means we can actually look at things with a level head and work out, well, what is the next best thing to do? And anyway, for December the 10th in this book, Daily Reflections, 12th month, all about the 12th step, sharing the message, and more. And this is what it says here about carrying the message on December 10th. Now, what about the rest of the 12th step? The wonderful energy it releases and the eager action by which it carries our message to the next suffering alcoholic, and which finally translates the 12 steps into action upon all our affairs, is the payoff, the magnificent reality of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, which is rendering us useful again as real human beings with an emotional, spiritual balance most of the time. To renounce the alcoholic world is not to abandon it, but to act upon principles I've come to love and cherish, and to restore in others who still suffer the serenity, or maybe supposed to be, still suffer the malady I've come to know. When I am truly committed to this purpose, it matters little what clothes I wear or how I make a living. My task is to carry the message and to lead by example, not design. And part of leading by example is that we don't take away from others what we would want to keep for ourselves. And in sobriety, it is, we don't just keep sobriety, we have to give it away to keep it. We have to level the playing field. We have to make it possible. We need to make it possible to be sober in others. And the same applies in all principles of leadership. We cannot take away from others what we would keep for ourselves. And this is where society and government often fails to deliver, because it gets wrapped up in other matters which are outside their purview. Like, never mind, it doesn't matter, I will rant on. So, important to me, how do I find my balance when things are going up and down and left and right, is the serenity prayer to God or good conscience. Whatever you choose to believe, whatever your belief system is, simply good conscience is a fantastic starting point, where it's not just about me, it's about everything. And serenity. So to God or good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, for me, is just for today.
Don in London, hello, it's December the 10th, 2009. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol. My behaviour, also addictive, work, relationships. Addicted to fear, probably, from a very early age. Never discovered that until many, many years later. When we live with a condition, be it emotional, physical or spiritual, when it's been going on for a long, long time, we're not too sure what's going on, because we just live with it. And with addiction, we move from liking to dependency to obsessive behaviour around filling the gap inside us in some way or other to make ourselves feel better. Why else would we do it? So the problem with addiction is, it's got you in its grip before you know it. It puts you in denial of the condition, and you wonder why you can't stop. And all those things apply to me. And I realise, in my very early days, when I took that first drink, this is 35 years later, at the end of drinking, some time back, that first drink did do the damage. It changed my attitude and behaviour. My attitude became more relaxed, or my behaviour became more relaxed as well. I was able to access a feeling of elation and happiness and joyfulness, and when life was sad, I could be sad as well, and to extremes. So the gift of anything which changes the way we feel is, it tends to put us at extremes of elation or depression, and we lose the middle ground. And in the middle ground is where most people live who don't drink, hopefully, and don't suppress their feelings. But life does help us do that, and culture helps us do that. So there are many reasons why we never get to understand who we are. So the gift for me, having got myself into a place of addiction, and I couldn't stop on my own, and realised I needed help, was I started on a daily basis, and I think I started a scorecard of 0 every day, to understand what's going on in my head, emotionally, spiritually, and what's going on for me physically. So I'm lucky to be on a sober path, one day at a time, where I do find out what my feelings are, and I can live my feelings. I can live my experience of life without too much worry about what has gone on before, and not too much worry about what's going to happen next, because I can only live in this one moment. And what's helped me? Well, family helped me long enough to stay alive, but they weren't able to cure my disease, same as I wasn't able to stop being addicted. So if I couldn't stop it, how could anybody else? And that was the final admission. I cannot do this on my own. So what happened next? Well, I asked for help, family, professionals, and I was directed yet again to a fellowship which I had ignored for some time, called Alcoholics Anonymous, because it's the final place where I thought it was a last chance saloon for anybody trying to find a way of living. So in that last chance saloon, I found a bunch of unique, authentic people, absolutely wonderful people who don't drink a day at a time. And some are only 1 day sober, as I was, and some are 40 or 50 years sober, because that's their choice. So fellowship gave people back their choices. So I joined in reluctantly and stayed a while and started to understand what these 12 steps of action, the 12-step program of AA, was all about. And essentially it's about changing my attitude and behaviour and living a new attitude and behaviour on a daily basis. Not making life too big so I can't live it, and not making it too small so it doesn't do anything. So luckily for me, I've understood the basic elements of living are to love, be loved, and do something useful. And beyond that, a lot of it is about status, power and authority and control and manipulation and all the things I don't want to do these days. It's about living life as is, letting the world be as it is and me be as I can be in it. So AA, the fellowship of AA, unique, authentic people, living 1 day at a time, soberly, hopefully, and if there's a relapse we go back and start again. And that's the gift. We can always start again, afresh, any day. So we're human, and people do make mistakes. And, as we're not running on self-will run riot anymore, we are very, very human, vulnerable people. But what I found is, in vulnerability, if we admit it, we have a strength, because then people can't knock us for it. And if they do, we're living with the wrong people. So, what is AA? Here is the statement, and then I'll share a reading from some of the literature. AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And the reason why I started these videos, a lot of people can't get to meetings because they just can't. And I'm having trouble today. I'm type 1 diabetic and I have other complications, and there are places I would like to be today, but I'm not going to be able to get there. Life is as it is. But I did get to a meeting last night and it was good, and there was a lot of sharing around life experiences to do with people who have gone from our lives, they've died. And one of the things I've learned, I was talking to my mother about it yesterday, we've had a lot of tragedies in the family, and I've lost a few people in fellowship too this year. And one of the things I know about grief is we live it, we don't forget, we think of people every day, and we have feelings of cherishing those thoughts and feelings and experiences we had with them. So we don't shut out the past, but we do acknowledge what an impact people have had on our lives and how we are grateful for their company whilst they were here. So grief doesn't go away, and it's something you don't get over. And often people talk about closure. Well, I don't know that that is the absolute goal of any sort of grief counselling. It's to live with the truth of now, that we have cherished people who are no longer with us. And if we acknowledge it on a daily basis, we keep the fond memories, and we can be sad about it a little bit, but we can actually celebrate the fact that they were in our lives and we had fun. So there we are, bit on grief. The reading, Daily Reflections today, 12th month, and it's all about the 12th step of action to change my attitude and behaviour on a daily basis, and it's about carrying the message to step 12 and living the principles of the fellowship program. And this is what it says, carrying the message. Now, what about the rest of the 12th step? The wonderful energy it releases and the eager action in which it carries our message, by which it carries our message to the next suffering alcoholic, and which finally translates the 12 steps into action upon all our affairs, is the payoff, the magnificent reality of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it goes on to say, to renounce the alcoholic world is not to abandon it, but to act upon principles. In other words, It doesn't mean you don't go to places where there is alcohol, but what you do is act on the principles I have come to love and cherish, and to restore in others who still suffer the serenity I have now come to know. When I am truly committed to this purpose, that is, helping others, it matters little what clothes I wear now, or how I make my living. My task is to carry the message and lead by example, not design. So in other words, we carry the message by doing and living and being a part of, and not rejecting any part of the world because it still drinks or doesn't drink, or takes drugs or doesn't take drugs, but to be sure of our principles of living, and that is to live sober in the moment of now. And if we feel under threat or not quite right, we call, ask for help, get to a meeting, do all the good things that the program shows us and helps us live. And that acceptance, the serenity prayer, which I share at the end, to God or to your good conscience, and it's always the God of your understanding, not mine. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is just for today.